This is Dolynny TV, and Bob Nicholson is putting his boots on and going to work today, ladies and gentlemen. No, seriously, okay, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Oilers exit interviews. Of course, scratching my nose already because the cat had to rub up against my hands and I had to rub my nose. That aside, what we're getting into is the transcript from the Oilers press conference today featuring Bob Nicholson and Keith Gretzky, one in which I guess holds water, treads water, and keeps the media at bay for another day kind of deal. That's really all I feel it does. Now, the reason I feel that is, as I said in a prior video, I said the timeline for the general manager search really needs no timeline because you've got a guy who, the majority, right? Obviously, I speak to minorities and majorities of Oilers fans with differing opinions on certain things. And the majority of Oilers fans who aren't so hardline old boys club have been just fine with the 2.5, 3 months we've had of Keith Gretzky as our interim general manager. After the Cam Talbot trade and after the Sam Gagner trade, you know what, I had nothing to complain about. Obviously, beforehand, a couple days before I had published my video regarding that I thought he was just a puppet and he was being controlled, and I still to some extent feel that way based on the way Nicholson speaks about what he has the capability to do, right? But in terms of things, sitting here thinking the timeline needs a timeline or that said, realistically, Bob Nicholson pretty much said he will get it right, and when he gets it right, it'll be done. That's what we're sitting here. And as I said, sitting here with Keith Gretzky as our general manager, either heading into the draft or heading into free agency, I'm not 100% concerned about that. Now, the one thing they did raise in the press conference today several times over, and this is the interesting part for Oilers fans, is it looks like guys that are on the list and they won't be available for interviews till May. So I think what's happening in that sense under Bob Nicholson's kind of leadership on this front would be you have to sit there and analyze, okay, obviously it's teams that are in the playoffs, got guys that are going deep into the season, right? Obviously May, you're talking just about the end of the Stanley Cup playoffs, right? The last week of the NHL schedule overall, and that means teams, like, who are you thinking that could still be around there, right? Somebody, I don't know if there's somebody hidden in the Capitals organization, somebody hidden in the Tampa Bay Lightning organization. Obviously, the Vegas Golden Knights, we all know what's going on there, possibly. San Jose, is there somebody coming out of San Jose, possibly? So, you talk about the teams that are primed to go deep in the playoffs, and that's where you start looking at your May timeline. Now, do I actually believe it's going to be till May? Probably not, because I feel there's going to be a sense of frustration throughout much of April and throughout much of May that'll lead to a hiring probably around mid-May is what I'm targeting for this schedule to happen. Whether that happens or not, who the hell am I to know? But the reason I say mid-May is because we're going to have all this hype about it for the next 3 or 4 days, right? Obviously, anytime something like this happens in Edmonton, there's every possible headline drawn up and figured out and talked about and then divulged and then destroyed and then rebuilt, talked about another day, and then we're over it by about day 5. So, as you saw with Connor McDavid comments from Vegas. So, it'll die down, obviously, because tomorrow it should even kill itself a little bit because we'll have the draft lottery, and then it'll reignite. Like I said, it'll rebuild itself because now you'll have maybe a top 3 pick that now you have to have a GM that has a plan for that top 3 pick. Are we picking? Are we trading? What are we doing, right? Obviously, you have to figure that out with a GM. And I think the one thing that Bob Nicholson really did, I'm trying not to use too many of his quotes here because I want to try and summarize as much and not get into it. Not that one. Let's see here. Let's see. Not that one. And let's see, where is it? Guys, I'm losing my train of thought. It's a long list here of questions. You want to have the... So, basically, this question to Keith Gretzky at the draft. This where you go without a general manager into the draft. Keith, when it comes to the draft, you want to have the ability to make trades and make deals in draft as well. How are you guys approaching that side of it, knowing a GM is going to come in? So, this is essentially to the point that you have a new GM coming in and you have to have a plan for him, but he has to have a plan in place. And that's where tomorrow comes in handy, because you'll know for sure what's going on after tomorrow. And that's where the Oilers that are and the Oilers that will remain post hiring of a new general manager in terms of management staff have to have their plan in place as of tomorrow, probably by midnight, to help Bob Nicholson in the hiring process, right? Because you've got so much happening behind the scenes right now, and let's put the Old Boys Club aside for right now. You've got hockey operations in a complete shamble heading into the offseason because you don't have a general manager. You have Bob Nicholson lone wolfing it going into the interview process stage 1 by himself. And honestly, you've got to have Keith Gretzky in an interim role, not knowing if he's facing going to the draft himself or if he's going in a supporting capacity. And you've got a head coach up in the air where you're just kind of sitting on standby. Even the players self-admittedly, Bob and Keith today told the reporters that you're sitting there telling the players, well, we're on a wait and see right now as to what we do with you. We'd like to re-sign some of you, but we're just leaving that up to the new GM. So, like I said, today is just tread water, kick the can. And that's I mean, I like it and I hate it. Because for once, we're actually kind of taking our time in Oiler country, right? Because you've seen, obviously, they talked about it in the presser today as well. The rush moves, the teams holding them hostage to make those defense trades and the Manning and Petrovic trades. And you sit there and you talk to yourself, and we all know we rushed into that, right? 2 trades in one day. Peter Chiarelli just freewheeling, free control, whatever, failing out there left, right, and center, getting taken advantage of as he did every single trade. But you sit here and maybe think, okay, hold on. If we're actually taking our time, maybe we're going to get it right. And then the couple of the signs that I like that they're getting it right is the question about the draft lottery tomorrow is, can you both talk about the NHL draft lottery? Keith essentially says teams have a chance to jump up. We have a chance to jump up. As slim as ours are, we'd like to move up. So you sit there, okay. This team's aiming for a move-up pick, whether that be number 1, number 2, or number 3. The chances range between like 6.5 and 7.1. I think it's 6.5, 6.8, 7.1. See, I got the math down if I'm correct. Now you're going to comment and say I'm wrong. But that aside, this organization is looking to move up. So not necessarily in the draft lottery, but they've also kind of snuck in that they're willing to move up via actual trades at the draft, if that's such the case. So that sparks to me that they kind of have that plan under Keith. They have the plan under Keith ready to go, but they have to have their plan B, which is the new general manager. And that's why I say plan B, because I think Bob Nicholson is totally comfortable, given what I've read today in the transcript, given what I listened to, riding out with Keith Gretzky into the draft, into the offseason as deep as he can go before making a move. And that's, again, now you start to get the Old Boys Club collusion back in there, right? Because now it's we can fix this. The guys that have been here the longest can fix the problems that have lingered the longest, right? Now, not to try and push conspiracy theories on that one, but it's just seems to be the way it always goes in oil country, and I may be wrong on that. I may have the wrong perception, but it's just that's the Old Boys Club, and that's where Keith Gretzky gets hammered because he's kind of this hand-picked last name kind of deal. But I don't buy into that, as I said, because of what he's done as general manager and kind of appeased the fans per se. Sorry, very thirsty. Dusty day at work and dying. But that's essentially, I'm just picking pieces and reacting to it. So Keith Gretzky obviously said, I do want to be the GM, and there's lots of candidates. So now, yes, Keith Gretzky has evolved his take. He said he didn't want to be in the first month, but now he does want to be the GM. And let's see what else I've got for you. Okay, here's to my point about the guys deciding on not coming back. You know what? That's a great question, Nicholson says. Just thought leaving the structure the way it is. I certainly will be talking about those weaknesses because there are some weaknesses and want to do that in conjunction with the new GM. There's a lot of people that I want to sign right now and will be signed 99%. but we've made the decision just to hold everything as it is today and then move forward. So essentially Bob Nicholson kicking it down the road again, kicking the can down the road. And as I can say a million times, this is exactly what it is. So let's see, ignore that one. And this is, where's the one about the bottom up? Because that's the one I really didn't like, and I've really got something to say on that one. Let's see. I really don't know where it is. Anyway, there was, I guess we got to get to Ken Hitchcock, and that's where I'll leave you probably for this one, because there's a lot to get to in this. And really, I just wanted to get to the main points. There is a point in this transcript somewhere about the team building bottom up from the AHL up. As I've said, I think you got to go top down from upper management down, and that's where they're blending the two, because you got to find the general manager in the offseason while also finding your team. But to my point, I'm just giving you discussion points basically in the comments section at this point. Situation with Ken Hitchcock, as I've stated, before we signed Ken, it was to be the head coach until the end of the year. That time is up. Ken is aware of that, and we've had one-on-one meetings, and he'll be with the organization in some fashion. Will he be the head coach? That will be determined as we name a general manager. So essentially, I guess, in all of this, as long as they kick the can down the road, Ken Hitchcock is an insurance policy. You have an NHL caliber, greatest coach of all time kind of thing, mantra within your organization already, if you so need it. If the new general manager chooses to stick with what he's got it already. So I guess to summarize this whole kick it down the can mentality, or kick the can down the road mentality I've put on this video for you, is Bob Nicholson and Keith Gretzky, in terms of having Ken Hitchcock within the organization, have the security to take as long as they want. Again, back to my line from the other video a few weeks ago, the general manager search needs no timeline, because essentially they've got the pieces within to fix the problems so long as they choose to go that route. Heck, you know what? You could have Keith Gretzky as the general manager all the way to training camp, and then you bring somebody in first day of training camp as almost a co-GM, and then by the end of training camp, he takes over and runs the reins, and Keith is back to assistant. There are so many friggin' possibilities, none of which we really figured out in this kick it down the road press conference today from Keith and Bob, and we'll see. We'll see. That's all I really got. Guys, clean shaven, year's over, let's get to it. Draft lottery simulation coming up later on tonight. And then we'll get to the draft lottery tomorrow, and then the real heavy lifting starts on Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know what I'm going to have for you. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're going to take some time off and go on down to Cold Lake and have a good old time. I'll have some videos from Cold Lake for you, and we'll have a little weekend to ourselves up in Cold Lake Paradise. All right, I'm Tyson. This is Dolynny TV. That's the week plan. I am up on out of here.